Hello guys, welcome to Modern Web. If you don't know who I am, well, Modern Web make tutorial on web development to master your web dev skills. So if that excites you, make sure to subscribe my channel and like this video. Okay, so in today's video, we will continue making our full stack e-commerce website. This is the second part of it. In the first part, we have made the front pages like home page, search page, product page and for page. And in today's video, we will make its backend. So before we start, if you haven't watched the first part, I recommend you check out that first. Okay, so let's see the demo first. So this is our home page which we have made in the first part, and if I access a sign up route, you can see I am getting the sign up form. So we have a sign up page in the sign up route. A sign up page have input with a grade, focus effect and a custom checkbox and an image on the right side. And if I click on the buttons, I have form validations here also. And if I click on the link, I can switch between login page to sign up page using the link here. And if I click on the sign up button, it is validating the form. So if I fill the form, and submit it, you can see a loader in the center and I am being redirected to the home page, which means I am successfully signed up. And if I click on the user icon of navbar, I'm getting this pop-up where it is saying login as Kunal with a logout button. If I click on the logout, I'm successfully logged out and now I'm getting an option to login. And if I click on it, I am getting this login page. In this login page, I can log in. So if I enter the wrong password and try to log in, it will say password is incorrect. And if I try with invalid email, it will say email does not exist. So we are performing some validations in our backend also. Now let's log in. So once I am logged in, if I access a seller route, which is localhost 3000/seller, I have this seller page, and this seller page is a form to apply for seller account. It has the inputs, text areas and images, and also a form validations. So if I fill the form now, and click on get your account, you can see a loader between, and now I am in the dashboard page. So once the user is seller, he can access the dashboard page. Here I am getting hello, the name of the user, and add product. Since I don't have any add product page, I'm getting this 404 page. So if a user go to any page which doesn't exist, it will give the 404 page. And also if I log out and then try to access my seller page, it will redirect me to login page because without login I can't apply for seller. So this is what we'll about to code today. By the way, you can download the code images and the source code from the description. Also, if you do like my content and efforts, you can show your support by liking this video and subscribing my channel. Also guys, before we start, I have to ask you some things. First, if you follow my channel, you know I am also making a full stack social media site, and I already uploaded its first part, but I think it's very hard to run ecom and social media series together. So I'm thinking to make other parts of social media site after completing this e-commerce site. What you say, let me know in the comments. And also guys, I also started a CSS series, but it is not doing well. So I'm thinking to discontinue that series. Do let me know in the comments. Okay, enough talk. Let's start the video now. So let's start by making our server. To create a server, first we need to change our folder structure a little bit. So So create a public folder and move all the CSS image JavaScript along with the HTML files inside the public folder. We will have all the static files or the files we want to deliver in the to the front end inside the public folder, and all the backend files we will store outside the public folder. After you're done with the public folder, open the terminal by pressing Ctrl and the backtick, and after that run npm init command to initialize the npm. It will ask you for some information. You can just press enter to make it a default. Once you are done with that, you can see I got a package.json file, and you should also get one after initialize the npm. After that, install the packages using npm I and install these four packages. We want Firebase for, of course, Firebase, and Express.js for server, Bcrypt package we will need to encrypt our passwords, and Nodemon is for running our servers. So once you are done with it, if I open the package.json file, you can see our packages and their versions. Now inside the scripts tag, you can add the start command. Start is a like I'm creating a custom command, and inside it set it to nodemon server.js file, so it will run the server. And above the script tag, make sure you add this type module. This will enable the import ES6 in syntax, so we can use import to import the packages. After that, make the server.js file and let's make a server. So let's start by importing some of the packages. Let's start two packages for now, the Express and the Beaker. Well, in Node or the ES6 syntax, we import the packages like this. After done with importing, let's initialize or make the server. So to create a server, make a app variable and set it equals to express. And after that, we need some routes, of course, because we want it to be a front-end server. So make a home route. So to create a route in Express, we use app, which is our Express, and we use the method after that. So I'm just making a get request. Inside it, the first parameter is what route or what path name I would like to listen for, and after that we have a callback. So in the response, I'm just sending the index.html file by calling send file function, and the second argument is root. Root is defined inside which folder we have this index.html file, and in this case we have this inside a public folder. Now after that, listen the server for 3000 port by just calling app.listen function, and inside it just console log it. So yeah, we know our server is running or not. Now open the terminal and run npm start command. So this will start our server, and you can see we got the console log. So great. Now if I open the browser and access the localhost 3000, I should get the index.html file, and yes, you can see I'm getting the home page, but we have no styles and JavaScript. Why is that? Because our server can't find that. So to fix that, we have to make our public folder a static folder, and we have to define it as a folder which server should look in. So to make it as a static folder, we use app.use. So app.use is a middleware, and inside this express.static function will set the static folder. Now if I refresh the site, yes, I got the styles and the JavaScript files. Also use another middleware, which is app.use, and call the express.json. This will enable the form sharing so that we can easily share the form data with our server. If you don't add the express.json, we will not able to catch the form response to our server. Okay, so let's make the 404 route. To make a 404 route, we just make a get request on the path of 404. This is same as we did for the home route, but instead of sending the index.html file, we will send 404.html file. And yes, I messed up here. The first argument or the keyword parameter should be request, not response, because we can't define the same parameters two times. So after that, I can only get the 404 page by accessing the 404 path, but this is not the case. We don't want that, right? So add app.use at the very bottom. Remember this, add this very bottom. Here what it will do is this will listen for the request and a response. So if a user asks for any routes which doesn't exist in the server, this app.use will call, and inside it just redirect the user to 404 path by calling response.redirect. And yes, I got the error. And what's the error? The response, I defined it two times. So just quickly change it and make it request. And if I save it now and access any path which doesn't exist, I should get 404 page. Yes, I am getting it. Great. So now let's add the sign up page and let's create the sign up page. For that, inside a public folder make signup.html file, and for the styles make inside a CSS folder make form.css file, and inside JavaScript folder make form.js file for the JavaScript part. Again, I messed up here, rename the file name. Great, okay, I didn't create the form.js file, but we will do it later. So make the sign up route as same as the home route and a 404 route, and instead of sending index or 404, just send signup.html file. You can just copy paste the routes and change the path and the file name if you like. So let's access the sign up route, and yes, I'm getting it. Now let's quickly make the signup.html page. So you can close the server.js for now and write the basic HTML template. Give it a title, let's say online store sign up page. After that, link the form.css file, and also open the index.html file and copy these Google font links from here and paste it inside the signup.html file. Well, we require the style.css file for some common class names, so yeah, add that too. Now inside the body tag make a section, and this section will be our form container, so let's call it form section for now, and inside it make a div which will be the actual container of our form and the image. So make a div and give it a class, let's say form container, and make an image element outside the form container. Give it a signup bg.png as a source and give it a class form image. By the way, you can download the images from the description. Yeah, now let's style it. So first select the form section and set its width to 100% and also set its height to 100 VH, so this will cover the whole screen, and set its position to relative. Give it a display flex so that we can easily align our form container in center. Set its justify content center and align item center to make the form container in the center, and set its background to light white color. Yeah, so our image is too big. So select the form container now and let's say set its width to 60%, and now select the form image and set its width to 40% because we don't want it to be bigger than that. Yes, I messed up here. I messed up a lot of time. Let's fix it. Set its width to 40%. After that, set its overflow to hidden so it will not overflow, and yes, you can see the image on here. Give it a height of 100%, and yeah, okay, I guess I messed up somewhere. Let's see where. Okay, so inside the signup.html file we should or we have to create this image element inside the form container, because our form and image will be inside the form container. And yes, the form image add object fit property, so it will make the image in the proportions. And now set the form container a minimum height, let's say 300 pixels, and give it a height of 80 vh. Give it background to, let's say, white, and hide its overflow using overflow hidden. Z index, set it to 2, so it will be over all the absolute or all the elements. And set its display to flex for now, and give it a, let's say, a box shadow. Yeah, now it is good. Now you can select the form element and give it a width of 60%, because our image already covering 40% of it. And give it a padding, let's say 20 pixels from top and bottom and 40 pixels from left and right. Good. Now let's make the headings and inputs. So inside the form element, make an h1 element and give it a class, let's say form heading. So this will be our title, and give it any content, let's say new here, sign up here. So let's see the output. Great. Now inside the form element, set display to flex. We want all the elements to be in vertically centered, so we are using flex. But by using the display flex, all the elements will come side by side, but we want them below each other. For that to happen, make flex direction to column, so it will align all the objects below each other. And then set justify content center to make the elements in the vertically center. Now to style the heading, select the form heading element and set its font size to, let's say, 35 pixels. Don't worry, we will make it responsive in the upcoming videos, so for now you can just use pixels value. So after the h1 element, we need some inputs, so let's create them. Create an input and give it a type text, because this will be the name input. Set its autocomplete to off, so the Chrome will not show these suggestions, and give it an ID. We will select these elements or input in JavaScript using the ID, so give them specific and use placeholder to them. Make the copies of input, and you can change the type and ID of it. I'm fast forwarding this process. I know you know these things. If I see the output now, yes, I got the inputs. Now let's style them and make them beautiful. So in the form.css, select the input. You can just call or type input as a keyword, because we don't want to select the specific input here. We just wanted to make or style all the input. Set the width to 200% and give the height to 40 pixels, and also give it a border, let's say 1 pixel solid. Give it some margin from top and bottom, but don't give it a from left and right. Add 10 pixels padding and give it a line height of 40 pixels. Set line height equals to the height, so the text will be vertically centered. And use font family to set it a Lato font family, or you can give the color to black. After that, set its outline to none, so we will not see the default Chrome outline. And yeah, our inputs are looking great. Now select the input placeholder by simply double colon placeholder. This is a way to select a placeholder in a CSS and set its color and text transform to capitalize. Great. Now to hide the number arrows here, we need to add a CSS little bit. So first select the input and then use double columns. After that, add WebKit inner spin button. So WebKit inner spin button will access those arrows, and once you access those arrows, set their WebKit appearance to none. WebKit appearance none will hide them, and set its margin to none. It's looking nice. Now we have to style our input when it get focused. So to style the input when it get focused, we will use this focus keyword. And once it get focused, we need to change its border color. So set its border to 2 pixels solid and give it this color. So if I click on the inputs now, you can see the border color is changing now. Now select the placeholder when the input get focused. And once the input get focused, we need to change the placeholder color. So change it by setting its color to this color. Great, I think we are done with the inputs. So now let's style or make other elements. After the inputs, make a span element and give it a class error. This element will be our error. So you can type anything inside it, doesn't matter. Now we need it to be a danger or a red color. So let's style it. Select the error and set its display to block because span elements have display inline. So set their display to block. Give it a font size of 0.8 RAM, and I know I used pixelated values above and I'm using RAM value here, but don't worry, we will fix all these little bit issues later videos. Set its color to red and give it a margin along with the text transform capitalized to make the first letter uppercase. Also give it font family to Lato to make it little more readable. And you can set its user select none so that user will not able to select it. Okay, this looks good. Now we want to hide it. So to hide it, set its opacity to 0. Simple is it? So make error.show class and set its opacity back to 1. So whenever our element have show class, it will show it and set its opacity to 1. This is the way to create it in the CSS. So after the span element, let's make the terms and condition checkbox. So to create it, first make a div and inside it make an input, set its type to checkbox. So checkbox will give you the checkbox, of course. Why we are creating it inside a div? Because we will have the checkbox and a label element side by side, so we can easily set the div set display to flex, right? Great. And give it a title, of course, and after that make a label and give it a content like this. So once we are done with it, yes, you can see it's great, but we need to change the checkbox style little bit. So to change it, first select the checkbox by simply accessing it by its ID, which is TC terms condition. And first of all, we want to remove the default styling. To remove default styling, set its WebKit appearance to none. Now it's covering the full width. Why? Because we have set the inputs width to 100%. So set its width and height to 15 pixels because we of course don't want it to cover full width. And then give it padding to 0 and set its border to, let's say, 1 pixel solid. It will make it little cooler. Great. And set cursor to pointer. Well, cursor pointer property will give you the hand cursor when you hover the element. Set its position relative because we will going to have an absolute element inside it, and give it some margin top and bottom. I'm giving it margin top and bottom to perfectly align it with the label element. And then select the TC checked state by TC colon checked. Great. Inside it, set its background to this color. So if I click on the checkbox now, you can see it's changing its color. Now we just have to add the check sign. So to add it, make a before pseudo element of TC and set its content to nothing because we don't want anything. Set its position to absolute. Give it top and left to 0, and also give it top and right to 0, so it will cover the whole parent element, which is our checkbox. And then give it a background, which is a background image, and the image is check.png. So if I click on it, you can see the image, but it is not covering the whole. So set its background size to contain, so this will make the image fit inside the checkbox. Great. Now hide it by setting its display to none, because we don't want it to show every time. And then select the checked state of TC. Once it gets checked, select the before element and set it display back to block. Well, yeah, I think we are done with the checkbox also. So let's style the label also, because it's not looking nice. So give it a class to label, let's say TC text, of course, because I don't know what to call it. And select it in the CSS and set its margin left 5 pixels to make spacing between the checkbox and the label. Set its font size to 0.8 rem to make it little bit smaller, and set its font family to Lato to make it more readable, not fancy. Great. Now our the anchor element has a color purple. We don't want it, right? So select the anchor element of TC text and set its color back to 0. Great. So our checkbox and inputs are done. Now let's make the button to submit our form. So after the div element, make a button element and give it a class, let's say submit btn. Inside it, just type sign up. And after that, make an anchor element, set its href attribute to /login, because this will be our login page link. Give it a class, let's say other form link, and give it a text, let's say already have an account. So this anchor link will redirect our user to the login page, so that if they have an account, they can easily go to login page. Right. Now select the submit button here, give it display to block, and set its margin to 20 pixels from top and bottom, and give 0 from left and right. Set its width to 100 pixels and give it some padding. You can see the output. Right. Now give it more styles. So set its border radius to, let's say 0, and set its background, not background size, set its background to this color. So yeah, now hide or remove the border by border none and set its color to white. Also set its font family to Cinzel, because we want it to be a little fancy. Remove its border by border none, and also remove the Chrome's default outline by setting its outline to none. For the hand pointer, give its cursor to pointer and set its font size to 1 rem. Yeah, it is looking nice. Now select the other form links anchor element and set its font family to Lato, because we want it more readable. Set its color to black, give it font size to 0.8 rem, and I guess we are done with the form. Great. So our form is done. Now let's make it working by writing some JavaScript. Before we write JavaScript, we need to add a last thing, which is a loader. So at the very top, make an image element and give it a class loader. So this is our loading div. Now let's style it and make it at the center. Select the loader and set its position to fixed so it will stay on the screen, and set its top and left property to 50%. Set transform translate -50% and -50%. This is a position fixed or absolute trip to make the object in the center. You can't see the loader right because it is below the form, so give it a Z index 5 so it will get above the form. Yeah. Now set its display to none. We will show it by JavaScript. Now make the form.js file inside the JS folder and link it to the signup.html page so that we can make our form working. And also make a common.js file. This common.js file will store some of our common functions that we'll use for our login page and seller page. So link both files inside this form signup.html page, and now let's write the JS code. So inside form.js file, first we need to select the form btn. So select it using document.querySelector. Well, querySelector is a JS function which we use to select the HTML element using class name or ID. After that, also select the loader element because we want to hide and show it using the JavaScript. You can see I am copying the class name from the HTML page and pasting it here. This is the way to select an HTML element inside the JavaScript. Now add a click event to the form btn using add event listener function, and in the callback for now run the alert function so we will know, yeah, our click is working or not. And if I click on it, you can see I got alert, means it's working. So remove the alert function and let's select the inputs element here. Again use the query selector method, and since we have the ID for our inputs, select it using the ID name and select all the inputs we have in the form here. Once you are done with the selecting of inputs, now let's write if and else conditions to validate the form. In JavaScript, we validate the forms using if and else, and if else just work on conditions. So here I am giving the first condition is full name dot value dot length less than 3. So full name dot value will return the inputs value and dot length will return the length of the that value. So if I click on the button, you can see I got the alert pop-up saying name must be 3 letters long, which means our condition is working. Now let's make the show form function. So this show form error function, make it inside the common.js file because we want this function accessible in all the other form pages. We are making this function to show the errors in the form. So the first thing inside the function is select the error element, and you can see I'm selecting it using query selector. Once you select the error, set its inner HTML equals to the error parameter that I have given to the function, and at the last add the show class to it using classless.add. So if I click on it, again it is showing the pop-up because I haven't called the function. So call the show form error function and it should give me error instead of popping up. So if I click on it now, yeah, you can see I get a red alert saying name must be 3 letters long. So yeah, it's working. Now let's copy this if and make some more conditions out of it. So instead of now full name, select here email and email.value.length will return its value length and passing a exclamation in front of this condition, making it reversible. So if the condition is true, the exclamation will convert it to false. So this basically means if email.value.length is 0, run this condition. It's simple like that. So these conditions are so simple if you know the if else already in JavaScript. But you have any doubt in this, make sure you ask me in comments. I'll be glad to help you. Here, number function. Well, number function in JavaScript returns whether the string is number or not. So we are checking it whether our number is a number or not. And actually I messed up here. I should have passed number dot value inside the number function, but you can fix it, right? TSU.checked will return the check state of check input. So we have a value state for our inputs and check state for our checkbox. So yeah, we are done with our form validations also. So now let's store the data in Firebase and make the user sign up. So add the else condition, and inside the else condition we will send the data to our server. For that we will make a function called send data inside a common.js file. Of course we need this function in other form, that's why I'm making it common.js file. So this send data will basically take two parameters, a path and a data. Path will be the route and data what data this function has to send. And inside it call the fetch function to send the data to the server. Well, fetch first function is used to send data across the server and front end. Fetch function is done like that. After the fetch we use .then to catch the response from the server. Well, this is all part of promises, so if you don't know about it, no worry, just do like that, and if you know, great. So once we got the data from the server, we wanted to process the data, so I'm calling a process data function. Well, we don't have this function, so I'm creating it now, and this process.data function will process the data received from the server. Okay, so we have made the send data function. Now let's call it. So before we call it, first set loader.style.display. Well, .style will allow you to change the element CSS, and here in this case I am changing its display property to block. So if I fill the form and click on the sign up, I should see the loader in the center and should see the data in the console. Okay, I got the loader in the center, but I didn't got the data in console. Why? Because we haven't made the route in the server. So first open the server.js file and make a post route for our sign up page, and here catch the request. So we have this send data function which we use to send the data to our server. So let's call it in the form.js file and let's send the data to the server. After that we will handle it on that side. So call the send data function and inside the path parameter pass the sign up route, and in the data pass this object which will contain our name, email, password, number and TAC. So we are passing an JavaScript object. So if you know the JavaScript, in JavaScript we have a object type which I am sending here right now. Make sure you send the data like this, otherwise the project will not work. So now to check whether it's working or not, let's console log the received data inside here. And if now we submit the form, we should see the data in the console. Let's see whether it's working or not. Yeah, you can see in the console I got the data. I got the name, I got the email, password, number, TAC, everything. Great. We just need to catch this or handle this inside our server file. You can remove the console log and in the server define or access the cached variable like this. You can see inside the brackets I am pasting or typing the exact name which I am sending it from the front end. You should keep the same name on both sides because this is important. And set that equals to request.body. So what it will do is you don't need to write request.body.name to access name every time. You just write name and it will do it. And front-end validation is easy to bypass, so it's a good practice that you validate the form in server also. So copy the validation and paste inside this server. Remove the value path because this is not a input here. Now this is just a plain text. And instead of show form error, because we don't have any, send it in a response. So use response.json and send a JSON type object. JSON type object is basically a JavaScript object but has both key and parameter, key and values as a string. So if I comment the front end validation and submit the form, I should see the errors because our server is validating the form. So if I click on it, I didn't got anything. Okay, I got the console log. Great, so means our server is working. We just need to show the error. So in the inside process.data function, write a condition saying data.alert. So it will check whether our received data has an alert key or not. If it contains an alert key, show the error. Great. So our backend validation is also working. You can remove the comment from the front end validations, or also set loader.style.display to none because we wanted to hide once we got the data from the server. So you can see our loader is not showing and we are getting the error. Great. Now after the else if conditions, write an else block and inside it we will store the data in the Firebase. You can uncomment the conditions here in the front end side because of course we want our validation in the front end side to make website little bit fast. Now open the Firebase console. We will use Firebase as our main database to store the user and its information. So access your console and add a new project to it. Give it any name you like. I'm calling it ecom website version 2 and continue. Disable the Google Analytics for this project and make it. Once you're done with the process, go to the settings, project settings, and scroll to the down. Click on this web icon and give it a name because we want our Firebase project to a web app. So I'm registering it as a web app. So give it a name and click on continue. After done with that, you will get some code. Copy this whole code, and once you copy all the code, paste it at the top of the server.js file. So this code is basically importing an initialized app from Firebase package, and we already installed the Firebase, so we don't need to do anything. And the Firebase config is the configuration variable, and just change the app name to Firebase because we already have a app variable defining express. So this is the way to connect a Firebase. So we are done with the connection. Now we need to access the Firestore. For that, import get Firestore from Firebase/Firestore. Get Firestore is a function to access or connect the Firestore, and connect the Firestore like this. Okay, so we are connecting it to the Firestore, but we don't have any Firestore. So open the console again and go to the Firestore database section, and then you will see create database. Click on it and start it in the production mode or testing mode, whatever you like. Then choose a server of your region, so it will be little bit faster and it will take some time. After that, you will see a page like this. If you made this Firestore in the production mode, make sure you go inside the rules tab and set this false statement to true and then publish it. So by setting it true, you will allow read and write access, otherwise we'll not able to write it. Okay, we are done. Now let's write some code to store the data inside our database. So for that we need some functions, so import it like that. We need a get Firestore, of course, and after that doc function. Doc function will use to retrieve the doc. Collection will use to retrieve the collection. Set doc will use to set the document. Get, of course, to get the document, and update to update the document. Once you are done with the importing all the functions, now call those functions. So inside this else statement where we want to store the data inside a DB, make a variable user and set it equals to collection. Collection function is used to access the collection, and in Firestore every document is considered store inside a collection. In collection function we have two parameters. One is DB, which are database, and second is the name of the collection, which is users. After you define the user variable, now call getDoc. Well, getDoc function will retrieve the document from the database and inside it pass the doc. So doc is like what document you want. So its first parameter or argument is users, which is our collection, and the second is the name of the document, which is the email we got from the front end. So what are we doing is we are accessing the email name of document from our database. So if we get any document by this email, we know it is already in the database. If that is the case, we don't want it to store it in the database, so we will just say user in response that email ID is already in use or already exist. So we will achieve that using this code. So we are just checking it using if else condition. Well, user.exist will return whether the document is exist in our database or not, and if it is exist, we just want to respond it with a JSON object. So now add a else block, and in this else block we will store the user in the database because our user is new. So the first thing we want is to encrypt the password because we don't want it to store a simple text password because it's not a good practice. So for that use bcrypt we need. We use bcrypt like this, and there is nothing you need to understand. You can just write it like this because bcrypt is just a package. So these functions are just performing the number of salting and hashing to convert our password into a safe encrypted text. So the hash function will hash the password, and after it done with that, once it is done with that, we need to call a callback, and inside the callback just set the original password equals to this hash using request.body.password equals to hash, and also add a seller key to it because by default we want to set it to false because our every new user will be a non-seller user, so set it to false. And after that use setDoc function, and inside that call the doc function, which is to access the document and pass it inside it the collection user and the email parameter, which is the document name. After that pass the request.body, which is our data we want to set it, and then use dot then to respond to the data. Inside it just use response.json to send this JSON text data. I know this is little tough if you never did the backend before, but you'll get it by practice, so nothing to worry about it. So basically we are just sending name, email and seller to our front end. We don't need to send the password in the front end. Don't send the password ever in the front end. Okay, so let's check our form. So fill the form and submit it. We should see the name, email and the seller inside our console. Let's see whether it's working or not. Okay, it's giving me a error here, invalid number. Let's see why. Actually in this else if condition I need to add a exclamation before the number function. Basically number function returns whether the number is true or not, and we don't want it to run whenever it's a number, so it will convert the true into a false. So if I now check the form, I got one more error. So open the server.js file and remove this checked key from here because our TAC is already a true or false statement, so we don't need a checked there. Hopefully the validation work now. Fill the form and let's submit it. Yeah, we get the loader, and I didn't saw anything in the console, but refresh the Firebase console, and yes, you can see a user collection. Inside that you can see a email document, and you can see we successfully stored all the data here. And if I resubmit the form with the same email address, you can see I got the error email already exists, so means our email validation is also working. Great, now let's process the data. So inside the process data function, after that if condition, write the else if condition saying if data contains a name key. If it contains a name key, inside that set session storage.user equals to json.stringify the data. So json.stringify will convert this data object into a string because session storage only stores the string value, and session storage is like a local storage or local storing database for our Chrome or any browser. After this, set location.replace. So call location.replace and inside it pass the home route. So if we submit the form now, we should see or we should redirect to the home page. Let's see. Yes, you can see I'm redirected to the home page, which means our validations is working fine. And if I access my session storage, you can see I got the user key inside it, which is containing the user data. Great. And if I check the database, you can see we got the two users with different email IDs. Great. Now if I access the sign up page, you can see I'm still getting it, but I don't want it. I want once a user is logged in, we don't want to access the sign up page. So for that, go to form.js and at the very top call window.onload. Well, window.onload is a onload trigger. Inside it, just check for this condition whether session.user, which means whether we have any user inside our session storage or not. And if we have a user, let's set the user equals to json.parse. Well, we stored the object as a string, so json.parse will convert that string into a JavaScript object. And after we convert or access the user, check whether user contains an email key or not, and if it contains a user key, replace or redirect the user to the home route. I hope you understood the code. So if I access the sign up page now, I should redirect to the home page, and yes, I'm redirecting to the home page because I'm logging in. So if I expand the console and just clear our session, just use session storage.clear to clear the session storage. And if I now access the sign up page, I should see the sign up form. And yes, I'm getting the sign up form to letting me sign up. Great, so I guess we are done with the sign up page. Now let's make the login page. For that, inside a server.js, first make the login route. So make a get request using app.get and inside it pass the login path. And in the response, send response.send file login.html as the same we did for all the pages. Since we don't have any login.html file, let's make a login.html file inside the public folder. And we will use the form.css for our login page also. Copy the sign up page HTML and paste it inside the login file because both pages will have the same content. So now if I access my login path, I'm getting the login page. Great, now we just have to make a login form. So place this image element at the very top, means before the form element, so it will be on the left side of the form. Now change the source to login bg. Now change the form heading content to whatever, like welcome back, login here. Great. Now in the inputs, we don't need the name and a phone input, we just need the email and the password. Okay, and we really don't need the checkbox here because we don't want it to term and conditions applied. And in the other form link, change the route to sign up. and change the content also. And also the submit BT and change its content to login. So we are done with the login page. We just need to make it working. So if I open the console and press the login, you can see I'm getting error properties of null. Why I am getting this error? Because in the form.js I am accessing or I am selecting the name element which is not present in the login page. Since we are using the form.js for both the forms, we need to handle this error. So set the full name number and TAC equals to null when we don't have the element using OR operator. So after that, since this whole conditions is for sign up page, check for the whether we have a full name element or not. So check full name is not equals to null. So if it is not equals to null, well, we are on the sign up page, so paste that conditions inside this condition. And if the full name is equals to null, it means we are in the login page, and we will handle all the validations and submissions in this else block. Inside this else blocks, validate the form using the if condition also. So I'm just checking it whether the email and the password have length or not. So do it like this and use the OR operator to manage more than one condition. So if none of the value or one of the value don't have any length, show the error using show form error function, which is we made inside the comment.js file. So if I click on the login page, you can see the error is not coming and we got the error. Well, write the else block now and submit the login form as the same as we did for the sign up, but instead sending it the data to the sign up, send it to the login route and just send the email and password. Now make the post login route inside the server. Do it the same way we did for the sign up page. Here define the email and password variables like we did for the sign up post route. Set it equals to request.body. Copy this validation and paste here. Remove the value, so we'll validate the form back in backend also, and in the response send the JSON alert. And write a else block, or we don't need any else block here because we are returning the response. So once we will return, the execution will over from there, so the below code will not run. So after the if block, define the user, which is our user collection, and do the same as we did for sign up page to retrieve the email from the database. The only differences here is we are checking it exists or not, and if it do not exist, we are sending an error in response. All these conditions and functions are exactly same as our post sign up. So I don't think so you are not getting it because we already did it in the sign up route. But again, if you have any doubt, feel free to ask me. So if I check the form now, with a invalid email, I should see the error, and yes, I am seeing an error saying email doesn't exist. Great. So if the email do exist, we need to compare the passwords, and since we have encrypted the password, we will use a compare function of bcrypt package to compare the plain text password to the encrypted password. This is a way we compare the encrypted password to the plain text password. And inside it, I'm just checking it whether the password is same or not. This whole thing is pretty easy. In the response, send this JSON data. Write a else block if the password is incorrect, and in the response, send the JSON alert saying password is incorrect. So let's check the form. Well, you can see the email in the database. Let's try to log in with that email. And if I click on the login, yeah, I'm successfully logged in and I'm in the home page now. Great. And if I check my session storage, I should see my user. So we are done with the login and a sign up. Now we want to add a logout feature. So inside a index.html file, inside the navbar element, after the user icon, make a div and give it a class user icon pop-up. This will be a logout pop-up which will be inside our navbar, and inside it make a p element saying login to your account, and then make a anchor tag or anchor element, set its href to nothing, and give it a content like login. So if I refresh the page, you can see the text here. Now let's style it and make it look a little nice. So open the style.css file and select the user pop-up icon here. Set its position to absolute and set its top to 200%, so it will be 200% top away from the actual user icon, and give it some padding and set its background to white. Set font family to Lato so it will be more readable, and give it a width of 100 pixels. Set its right to 0. Also give it border radius to 5 pixels to make little bit of smoothness. And set its text line center to make the text in the center with a 1 pixel solid border. Great. Now let's style the P and A element inside the user icon pop-up. So select the P element first. Set its font size to 1.2 rem. And set text transform to capitalize to make the first letter uppercase. Give it a line height of 2 rem. And yeah, I guess the width is a little bit small, so let's make it little bit more. Set its width to 180 pixels, and now it's looking cool. Now select the A element of user icon pop-up. And set its display to block. So if I set its display to block, I can easily use margin auto. So margin auto will place the anchor in the center. Set its color to white, give it a background of this color. Give it some padding, let's say 10 pixels, and yeah, it's looking great. Also set its width to 100 pixels and set text transform capitalized to make the first letter uppercase. Give it a little bit of border radius, and yeah, we are done with the styling. So now set the display to none of user icon, so now we don't see it. And now set its display back to block when it will have the active class. Now let's write JavaScript to make the logout working. So we will make this navbar from the JavaScript. So cut this code from inside the nav. Just leave the nav element inside it, cut all the elements, and make a nav.js file inside the JS folder. Now inside nav.js file, make a function calling create navbar. So create navbar function will create the navbar element. Inside the function, select the navbar element. So using the document.querySelector method, inside it pass the navbar class, which is here. So paste it inside the query selector, and then set navbar.innerHTML plus equal. So plus equal will increment, will add this text to the inner HTML but not overwrite it, and paste the HTML code here. And notice I am using template string here, which is the backtick above the tab key, not the single quote. And at the very last, call the create navbar function. Also cut these nav code from home.js and paste it inside the nav.js because it makes more sense, and link the nav.js file to the index file. Now if I refresh the page, you can see the navbar here, means our nav.js is working fine. Now let's show the login pop-up. For that, select the user icon pop-up element here using the document.querySelector method, of course. Select all of these elements. Now add a click event to user icon using add event listener, and inside that toggle the user pop-up icon class list. So set user pop-up icon dot class list dot toggle and toggle the active class of it. So if I click on the user icon now, you can see I am able to show and hide the pop-up. Great. Now select the text and the A element of the user pop-up icon. So instead of document.querySelector, you can directly type user pop-up icon.querySelector. So it will only search the element inside the user pop-up icon, and we have a single P element inside it, so we don't need to worry about class names and IDs here. And select the A element here also. After that, define a user variable which will get the user data from the session storage. So set user equals to json.parse session storage.user, or set it equals to null, because if user is not logged in, we don't have a session.user. So basically then the user will be equals to null. Now check user is equals to null or not. So if it is not equals to null, our user is logged in. In that case, set text.innerHTML to this. and set action btn inner HTML to this. After that, add the else block and inside it set text.inner HTML to this. So the else block will be when user is not logged in, and set action btn.inner HTML to login. So this is we are setting the text. So you can see I got the logout, but there is still a issue. Yeah, correct the spelling of HTML, and if I refresh the page, you can see I am getting login as Kunal. Great. Now we need to make the logout function and the login redirection. So for that, add a click event to action btn using add event lister, and inside the callback, call the logout function. Of course, we will need create the logout function next. So define a logout function at the end, and inside this function clear the session storage using session storage.clear and reload the page using location.reload. So it will reload the page. So if I log out and click on it, you can see I'm logged out. I'm getting login option. Now in the else block, add click event to action btn again, and in the callback redirect user to the login page using location.href equals /login. So href is means the link path. You can see I am redirected to the login page. Great. So if I log in now, you can see I am getting the logout option, and if I log out, I am getting the login option. So I guess we are done with that also. Now let's make the seller page. Well, for seller page, first let's make the seller route. So inside server.js file, make a get seller path, and in response send seller.html file. This is same as we did before, so there is nothing. So if I access the seller route, I am getting this error because we don't have seller.html. So let's create a seller.html file, and inside CSS folder make seller.css, and inside JS make seller.js. Now let's make the seller page. So open sign up and copy the HTML and paste inside the seller page, because we will have the same content. We will just style the CSS. So link seller.css here and form.css. We don't need any style CSS here. And you can change the title also. Leave the loader and remove this form section and make a div. Give it a class form. Inside it, make an h1 element for our heading and give it a class, let's say form title. And outside the div, make an image and give it a source with the class seller image. You can see I got the text and the image. So now let's style those elements. So first select all the elements using star selector and set their margin padding to 0. And then select the body element and set its width to 100% along with height 100 VS, so it will cover the whole screen. Set it display to flex and give it a background of white. Give its font family to Lato sans serif, and you can see my image and form are side by side now. So select the seller image now and set its width to 40%. Give its height to 100% and set object fit to cover. So it will make the image the proportions. Now select the form element and set its width to 60% because we left with 60%. And give it some padding, let's say 20 pixels. Also set as display to flex and set its flex direction to column to align all the elements inside it in center, vertically center. Set justify content and align item center. Great. Now select the form title and its style it also. Set its font size to let's say 1.8 rem and set its color to this. Give text transform capitalize and give it some margin bottom also. Great. Now let's make the input. So after the h1 element, make an input. Set its type to text and set autocomplete to off so it will not give any suggestion, and give it a id, let's say name, and inside a placeholder let's say business name. After that, make a text area, remove this name id calls rows and set its id to address. So this text area will be for our address. Set it autocomplete to off and placeholder to business address. Make a copy of it and change the id to about instead of address. So we are just making an address and about text area. And again make an input for our contact number, so set is type to number. You can see I got the input and the text area. Now let's style those elements. So open a form.css file also, and where we styled the input, add the text area element here also. Inside the focus and placeholder styles also add the text area, so our input and text area will look same. Now in seller.css, select the input and text area to style the inputs little bit more. Set their width to let's say 70% and give it a border of 1 pixel solid, a grayish color. Give it a border radius of 5 pixels and set its height to 2.2 rem. If I refresh the site, okay, it's looking cool. Set its font size to 0.9 rem and give its line height to 1.5 rem. Give it some padding also along with the margin. Yeah, so select the text area now individually and set its height to 8 rem. Make it a little bit bigger and give its font family to Lato. Set resize to none, so user will not able to resize it, and set outline to none. Great. Now let's make a button element. So give it a class apply btn, and this will be the button for submitting our seller page. Now we need to style this button also. I guess our inputs height are little big, so let's make them small. So in seller.css, set its height from 2.2 rem to 1 RAM, and yeah, it's looking nice now. 1.2 RAM will work. Now let's try the button. Copy this class name and paste here. Set its width to, let's say, 250 pixels and give it some padding from top 10 pixels, let's say. And yeah, now set its font size to 0.9 rem. Give it a text transform capitalize and background of this color. Set its border to none because we don't want any border, and set the color to white. Also give it some margin top, let's say 20 pixels, and set cursor to pointer so we will have the hand pointer on hovering it, and set its font family to Cinzel. Great. Now before the button element, make an span and give the class error. So this is the error element. So say whatever you want, and yeah, we are done with the seller page styling. Now let's make the form working. So link seller.js here instead of form.js, and let's write some JavaScript now. In the seller.js, first select the loader using document.querySelector, and after that select the apply BTN also using document.querySelector. Now add a click event to apply BTN using add event listener, and inside a callback, alert the user. So if I click on it now, I get the pop-up. Great, means our click is working. Now inside here, first select all the inputs and text area using document.querySelector as we did same for the sign up and form login page. So select it using the IDs, select all the inputs. Or actually we need the inputs value, so add dot value after query selector, so it will give the inputs value, and in the if condition compare that value. So you can add simply this condition, which means if any of the input or text area doesn't have any text, it will throw this condition. So yeah. Inside this condition, just alert for now, and if I click on it, yes, I'm getting a error alert, so it means our condition is working. So call show form error function, which we have made in the common.js file, and show the error here. So you can see I got the red alert, which is fine. Now add a else block, and inside this else block, let's submit the form. So first show the loader using loader.style.display equals to block, so it will show the loader, and let's check it. So fill the form without any errors. And if I click on the BTN, yes, I am getting the loader. Great, now send the data to server using send data function, and here just add the seller path you can see we have made this send data and commented JS file. So in the path, add the seller path and send this data to backend. In this, we are just sending name, address, about, number, and also a user email so we can identify the user in the server. So access the email using json.parse session storage.user dot email. So json.parse.sessions user will give the user and dot email will give its email. Now open the server.js file and let's make the path. So make a post path of seller. And again here define the variables which we are accessing or getting from frontend, which is our name, address, about, number, and email, and set them equals to request.body. Now copy this validation and paste it here. Change the business name to name and nothing you need to do more. Change show form error to response.json and send an alert key. Great. So this is all we have done in our login page and sign up page. So I don't think so it is that difficult, but if you are still finding it difficult, you can ask me in the comments. I didn't got the error because I'm getting errors in console. Wow. So what's the error? So the error is I'm not logged in. Since I'm not logged in, I have no email in my session. So let's first log in. Now if I'm logged in, now let's go to seller page and let's click on it, and yes, I'm getting the error now, which means our validation is working. So you can uncomment the condition, front end condition now. And after this else, add else block, and here update the seller status from the Firebase. So we will store the seller data to a seller collection and then updating the user data. So first select the seller collection using collection and db seller, then set the document and call in a document function inside it, pass seller collection with the email name. So this basically will do is create a document of email inside the seller collection and set it equals to request.body. And once we are done with that, log this. So if I fill the form now, okay, I'm getting error data. So actually let's remove the console log and select the user collection here. So we are done with the creating of document inside seller collection. So we just need to update the seller status from false to true in the user. So select the user collection and use update doc function here instead of set.get. Use update doc and here pass the user collection along with the email name. Perfect. And inside the data set seller key to true. So this will update the seller key from the user document to true. And then once we are done with it, in response send this JSON data. Great. So I'm sending seller true in the front end, so we need to handle it also. So So inside the process.data function, make else if data.seller. So it means data contains a seller key. If it contains a seller key, first define or actually access the user from session storage using data.force. Once you access the user, set its seller key to true and then update our session storage by setting session storage.user equals to JSON stringify this user variable and redirect the user to dashboard page which is not exist yet, but we will create it next. So if I fill the form, you can see I am logged in and its seller status is false now. And now if I fill the form and submit it, I'm redirected to the dashboard, and since we have no dashboard page, I'm getting the 404 page, and in the session I'm getting the seller to true, which means we are done with our seller also. Now we just need to make our dashboard. So instead of 404 we need to get the dashboard page. Before making dashboard we have an issue here. So if I log out and then access seller page, you can see I'm getting it, but I don't want it. I want it when I log out, I will redirect to login page whenever I access seller page. So the error will not come where email is not defined. So add a onload event to seller.js file, and inside it first select the session storage user using json.force or set it equals to null. Then add these simple if and else conditions to redirect user to different pages. So you can see I'm getting the login page now. If I access the seller page again, I got the login page. Great. So it means a user can't access a seller page without logging it. So let's quickly log in. And if I access the seller page now, I'm getting the form. Great. Now also what we want is when seller is true for our user, we want to redirect our user to dashboard. So add this condition in else if and redirect the user to /dashboard. So whenever the user is already a seller, he can't access the seller page. I'm getting the 404 page because we don't have the dashboard still. So make a dashboard path inside server file and in response send dashboard.html file. Now create a dashboard.js file for JavaScript, dashboard.css file for styles, and dashboard.html file for page. Misspelled the spelling of HTML, so let's correct it. And now let's make the dashboard page. So here write the HTML template, give it a title, and link dashboard.css file. Copy these font links from index file and paste inside dashboard file. Now inside a body tag, just make a div and give it a class. Add product So this will be the banner for our ad product, and inside it make a p element, give it a class text. So this will be sort of greeting saying hello and username. After the p element, make an anchor tag and set its href2/add product, which do not exist now, but we will create it in the next video. Give it a class add product btn and add the content. So if I access the seller page, I'm getting the dashboard page. Great. Now let's style the page now. So access all the elements using star selector and set margin padding to 0. And then select the body and give its weight to 100% and set its background to this color. Give it some padding and set its font family to Lato sans serif. Now select the add product element and set its width to 100%. Give it a height of, let's say, 60 pixels and set its background to white color. Set its border radius to, let's say, 10 pixels and also set its display to flex to make the text and button side by side. Set justify content space between, so it will make space between these two children, and set align item center to make it vertically center. Give it some padding, let's say 40 pixels, and yes, it's looking good. Now select the text element and set its font size to, let's say, 1.2 gram. And now select the button and set its font family to Stencil. Give its text decoration to none to remove the underline and set the color to white. You can't see it because our background and color both are white, so set the background to this color. Set text transform capitalize also and give it some padding. Set some border radius to it also, and yeah, the button is okay now. Now add the dashboard.js file here and let's write some JavaScript. So first select the greeting text, which is simply hello element. So select it using document.query selector. Copy this ID and paste it there. Now set its .innerHTML plus equals to, make it plus equals to, so it will not override the actual inner HTML. First select the user from session storage using json.parse session storage.user, and once we have the user, set inner HTML plus equals to user.name. So if I refresh the page, you can see hello for now, which means it is working. Now what if the user is not logged in? We want it to redirect to the login page. So for that, write this condition and set its location to /login. And if our user is not a seller now, then we want it to go in seller page. So set its location.replace to /seller. So it will redirect the user to seller if user is not a seller. Well, I'm not redirecting it because I'm already a seller. So let's log in with an account which is not a seller. You can see after I logged out, I can't access the dashboard, and if I log in with the email which is not a seller yet and I try to access the dashboard page, I'm getting the seller page. Now if I try to access the dashboard page, it is redirecting me to seller page. So we are done. Great work, guys. So let's wrap this video here. Today we made the sign up login features along with seller and dashboard page. And in the next part we'll make the add product page and dynamic product pages. So if you have any doubt on this video or anything I did wrong in the video, you can tell me in the comments. If you do like the video, make sure to give it a like and share this video with your other friends also. With that, thanks for watching.